What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune in and check out the content. And with that being said, man, was listening to an episode of the Dan Lebatard show, right? And they were speaking about, uh, amongst many things, they were speaking about the amount of money that LeBron James is taking to play in, with Philadelphia 76ers, right? And they really basically, Dan Lebatard really basically spoke about like how his value has decreased as far as his leverage throughout LeBron James' career. For the most of his career, he's made it a point not to, um, to always exercise this leverage when it came to making sure that he got paid what he thought he was worth and what he deserved. And so now that the 76ers are really paying LeBron James what is 2 years, $8 million, and they stand to make so much more money off of LeBron James. It just shows that how, in my opinion, like LeBron James has hustled backwards, right? When I think about Michael Jordan, his last 2 years in Chicago, each one of those years he got $30 million plus, right? And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because if you do things right earlier in your career and you set yourself up to you have leverage later in your career where somebody just can't lowball you. All the teams that were in the running to get LeBron James was lowballing them. That what it was. Cleveland said they only had $3 million. Miami was making, like, they wasn't making LeBron James a priority. They was making sure they shore up the rest of their roster before they were going to save a spot or two for LeBron James, right? And so when a team do that, when teams start doing that, saving a spot at the end of the bench for you, that's not like they're making room or they're making setting it up so they can bring you in as and pay you what you want. They, like the last spots on the bench are the lowest spots as far as pay. And what they're going to make off of LeBron James, it's just going to be, it's going to be a lot of money. It's going to be a lot of money, right? And so Dan Lebatard spoke on that, and I'm going to play the audio, and then I'm going to come back and give some more of my input.
On James farewell that they will get to capitalize on.
Maybe.
The amount of money that the Sixers got for $3.9 million doesn't make a lot of sense to me in this respect, Zaz. LeBron James, since signing that deal at a discount with the Miami Heat in 2010, has been firmer on nothing than I will not take any discounts. He has been firmer publicly on no stance than you will pay me the maximum that is allowed because I'm underpaid. Even when you pay me the max, I'm still underpaid. And this represents a reversal of course when it comes to him. That is at least in part because the market showed you, no one's going to actually pay you what you think you're worth in a market that you want to play in.
All right. And let me just say this. Why is that? Why did LeBron James, why did his leverage fade when Michael Jordan's leverage, he was able to get paid more later in his career? And that's because LeBron James on the front end didn't put in the work. And so there's not a demand, like there's not a public demand. If Chicago, like I said, if Chicago had made up their mind, they'd be like, nah, Mike, you're not worth $30 million. And $30 million back in those days, man, when Mike was playing with Chicago was just crazy money. That was astronomical. That was crazy money. $30 million for a year, each, and 30 plus each one of those years. But the league knew they was going to get it back. Chicago knew that they was going to get it back. And just think about this. LeBron James, I thought that LeBron James was going to get more than I thought he's probably gonna get like around about 20-something million dollars, because now you set yourself up from the position where LeBron James could do this retirement tour. And on top of that, if LeBron James is on your team, you're going to get more home games. I mean, more games televised, right? So you're going to get more money off of that, way more than the $8 million that you paying him. So LeBron James, he couldn't even leverage that. You know, the fact that the Philadelphia 76ers is going to make $8 million, they're going to make that in one game. You know, like one televised game, they're going to be able to make, they're going to get their money back from that. But if LeBron James had a fan base that you know, they could stir up and people would be outraged and be like, what? You know, he don't have that. He don't, and so now he's at their mercy. $8 million, they lowballed him. Everybody, all those teams that wanted LeBron James lowballed him. So let me get back to it. And it's LeBron James' own fault, because he set himself and put himself in a position where they can lowball him. Nobody, you know, like other basketball players of his stature didn't go through this.
The teams that were in it did not have a max contract to give him, but as firm as his actions were over the course of his career, that's how firm his words were via Rich Paul. Rich Paul said weeks ago, money does not matter, and everybody met that with skepticism.
I didn't believe it.
Everything along the way of Rich Paul saying he hasn't decided. Every single thing that was criticized, oh no, you guys know exactly where you are, came out to be true. Rich Paul didn't know, LeBron didn't know.
Let me though offer you a bit of perspective here on what Rich Paul did know earlier than the rest of us. He said out loud that money's not a factor when he realized they weren't going to get what they wanted anywhere in the world.
Again. And see, everybody saw through that. When Rich Paul said, well, money's not a factor, how's like 10 years, for the past 10 years, LeBron James has made at least $30 million. And now that, you know, the Lakers took that 50 million plus off the table, and teams started to lowball LeBron James, now all of a sudden, you know, well, money's not a factor with us. When people see that you know, you don't have the leverage, and there's no outcry from the fans, like, man, you know, if y'all don't pay LeBron, you know, they're not worried about losing fan support. Whereas though if LeBron James was a 76er from day one, or he was a Cavalier from day one, and y'all say in his last year, we don't want to, you know, and there's a demand for LeBron James, the fan base, we want to see LeBron James, and then you say, well, we're not going to pay LeBron James, it's going to be an outcry. But LeBron James he don't have that leverage with the fan base. And so now he's in a position where they're going to take, you know, they can lowball him and take advantage of the situation, like I said, and they're going to make way more than $8 million.
Like, he didn't say that because that's where they entered the proceedings after leaving the Lakers. The Lakers broke up with him, and then they started framing everything, and they realized that the moment that the Lakers broke up with him, they had a decent idea of where the money was going to be and how much it was going to be. And so they started with the narrative of money doesn't matter when it's mattered a whole lot the last 20 years. They knew the amount of money that was going to be available, and it was a lot less than what they wanted. The market spoke early on this.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but like, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't we all know what the market was? Like, we all knew the cap situation from all these teams that he'd consider being in the mix. Like, it's not like, all right, let me get a max contract. They didn't have that to offer. The cap situation for these teams was a cap situation.
My point.
Yeah, but all right, so the teams didn't have that to offer. But if LeBron James is worth what he think he's worth, then, you know, people would have made room. You know, they would not have went out. The Heat, if the Heat would not have went out and got Giannis. If you know that LeBron James is on the market and LeBron James is worth what he say he's worth, then you don't go out and get Giannis. You make sure you get LeBron James first. But LeBron James not worth that. The Lakers let you know he wasn't worth that when they didn't pay him. You know, and so like I said, teams went ahead and they made their roster moves, and they said they left some spots open, 1 or 2 spots, because if you sign LeBron James, a good chance that he's gonna want to bring his son with him. So they left a spot open, you know, for him on. at the end of the bench types, you know, that type of pay. But they didn't choose LeBron over Giannis. They went out and got Giannis and say, look, if you want to come here, this is what we have. You know, either take it or leave it. Cleveland, take it or leave it. So, you know, for LeBron James to say, well, you know, it's not about money. Of course it's not about money because you're not going to get paid.
They could have maybe moved things and signed in trades, but I think it was pretty clear that he had to take less.
This stuff happens months before we hear about it. LeBron James and Rich Paul have been planning for the exit from the Lakers for many, many months. It didn't just happen. We learned about it when they were willing and ready to do the framing of whatever it is that they were going to say publicly so that they could shape the storyline. But they knew what their situation was in Los Angeles. Now, I'm hearing a number of different things in a number of different places, and I want to make both some.
All right, so you basically get the point, man. Now that the Lakers, now that LeBron James don't have any leverage, that's what happens, man. You know, the teams lowballed him. Whereas though, you know, had LeBron James did things right differently. Now, I'm not going to say right. Had he did things differently, he would have more leverage. And there would have been more public outcry. People would have been like, nah, man, y'all going to have to pay this man more than that because the fan would, you know, the fan base is what predicts that or controls that. If there is a demand for LeBron James, then they're going to pay him. Whereas though these teams, you know, teams now was looking just to use LeBron James because he brings, he's not putting you in a position where you're going to win, but he just brings attention to your team. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm going to check y'all out in the next video. Peace.